Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Steven Naismith and Hugh McDonald here with me on this Thursday. Great to have your company. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, tell your friends, share the stream, and if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button on that red block and you'll be with us, joining the football family, talking about football, not only here domestically, but across Europe and the world occasionally. And the reason I mention that is because if you notice on some of our backdrops, whether it's me or whether it's Steven Naismith or Hugh McDonald and every now and then Ruffy, there's a new addition that people spot. They're eagle-eyed. And Ruffy, you've got a new frame there and everybody will notice it eventually. So we might as well get it out of the way, because that is that moment which I don't think it defines your career, but it's certainly one of those moments where, you'll look back on with, I don't know, what do you look back on it with? Zico bending the ball round the wall in Seville and you just watching it hit the post, each stamp in the back of the net. Is it with pride? Is it with anger? Is it with nostalgia?
Not at all. I thought it was a fantastic goal. When I saw it going over my shoulder, I went, wow, this is a cracker. This will be up here. This will be up here. This will be in the top 50 at least. No, I tell you a quick story. I went on holiday with my son in Mallorca, and you'll be able to tell me what World Cup it was. It was Holland were playing in the same group as Republic of Ireland. Long time ago.
Oh, right. Right.
And anyway, the majority of the people in the hotel were Dutch, and they all said, "Did you want to come down and watch Holland versus?" I'm sure it was Ireland. And there's a Dutch boy got a hotel down the road, and we're all going in there. There's about 200 of us, and we're going down an hour before the game, and we're all sitting there watching the game. It was all Dutch supporters. And here before the game, the World Cup had done a sort of a review of all the goals, the 50 best goals ever scored in the World Cup, and I'm sitting there with all the Dutch boys, and here all of a sudden I'm in three of them. They're all looking at me going,
Ruffy, dare I say it, and you know what I'm like, one of them, if you're in three of them, one of them is definitely Zico. The other one must have been Johnny Rep hitting the ball in the game against Argentina. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And the third one Eder, or is it Kubias? Oh, it's Kubias. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's Kubias.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's brilliant, Ruffy. Even in defeat, there's a silver lining, because Steven Naismith, you'll not be aware of this, but the big man has Kubias, and I don't know if you're aware of him because you're so young, Steven, but Kubias was an absolute legend in Peru, a real quality number 10. And Ruffy's got the jersey on the wall. It doesn't get any better than that, Stevie, does it?
No, very good. It's as players you do that, you try and get some great tops, but don't get many better than that.
What's your best one, Stephen, that you've got?
Ryan Giggs. I get Lilian Thuram's. I swapped my Champions League debut top for Thuram's. We were walking off at the end, and me being young and naive, like, he's unbelievable. I can't not get his top, so I swapped with him. So got a few others, but that's probably the pick of the bunch.
Oh, good player as well, Hugh. Can't argue with that one, can we?
Absolutely not. I mean, that's top notch. I always remember, who was it that got Maradona's top 19? The hand of God. Was it Steve Hodges or something like that? It was somebody in the England team that wasn't, top rank, like a Terry Butcher or a Lineker or something. I think it was somebody like Steve Hodges got that Maradona top hand of God goal, dribbling goal, and it's worth a mega fortune now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worth asking Charlie who he's got. I remember in a game we played against Barcelona at Ibrox, literally for the last 5 minutes of the game, Charlie man-marked Ronaldinho. I'm sure it was Ronaldinho or Messi, and that's not a lie, just so he can stop at the end of the game. Davy Weir and guys like that have been knocking their pan in all night, desperate to get it, and Charlie right at the end.
You do. You'd be hard pressed. Peter, to beat Jimmy Nichols' story about Zico.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Don't tell it, because
no, it'd take too long.
Jimmy tells it brilliantly. But to be fair, the same scenario, Stephen. Jamie Nicol literally, is on the park and he realises Zico's coming on, and he goes right over to him and he goes, Northern Ireland #2. That's all I'm saying. And then he tells you this wonderful, long-winded story about how at the end of the game Zico asked for the Northern Ireland #2 shirt, and Jimmy's an absolute gem of a guy, brilliant. But hey, collecting shirts, absolutely fantastic. Anyway. Football, and lots of it to talk about. Of course, we'll have a preview and hear from Gabriel Antoniazzi ahead of Royal Antwerp against Rangers. Give us your thoughts. Do you think Rangers can come away with another positive result on their European travels? We'd love to hear from you on that. Give us your prediction. We'll also look back at the 2 games last night and get your thoughts on Celtic's narrow win. And of course, St Mirren against Hamilton Accies ended all square. Accies with this good bit of form of late that seems to be just at that right time when you're making the run to try and escape relegation. We'll look at some of the Champions League as well and get your thoughts on that, as well as the other Europa League ties. So lots to talk about in the programme, and thank you very much. We really do appreciate you joining us. So first and foremost, I think David Turnbull making a push for a Scotland call-up. Hugh McDonald, do you buy into it?
Yeah, I do. I think for David's, he's really been excellent this season. He's in what we could describe as a struggling Celtic team as well. He's scoring goals. Technically, he's very good. His big problem is he's a midfield player. And the midfield, we all know in Scotland, is very strong. And not only is it very strong, but all the midfielders in the Scotland setup at the moment, I think bar none, are performing at least a decent level to a very high level. So there's not that many that are going to drop out the squad. So basically, and it's he's going to face an uphill task to get into the squad because of his position, and he might even have to rely on an injury or two to force his way in. But he's doing everything he can, Peter, to get into the team. But that's a tough slot. If you're a centre-half coming through, a striker coming through and displaying that kind of form, I think you'd almost be inked in at the moment. But midfield, really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies to many people who sometimes listen to this programme as a podcast. If you are walking around a park right now, you may well be looking behind you thinking there's somebody following me and is about to hit me with a truncheon. That's just basically Ruffy moving his microphone consistently just to make sure that it's in the right position. But he doesn't realise that it comes through and you're looking behind you in the middle of Strathclyde Park or a big country park somewhere thinking somebody's going to just batter me over the head with a truncheon right now. Anyway, apart from anything else, John Kennedy speaking after the narrow win last night for Celtic. They won by a goal to nil. Turnbull scored the goal, and Kennedy thinks he's got a good shout for Scotland.
Steve will be obviously a lot of decisions to make in terms of his squad, and maybe he'll be loyal to the guys that got him there. But Dave's doing everything he can in terms of performances to ask the question, and that's all he can do. But ultimately, it'll be Steve's choice and how he sees it. But for us, from a selfish point of view, we just worry about ourselves and make sure we're doing the right thing for him, and he's then putting in performances for us.
Yeah, he's doing well. He's a good young player, got a lot of potential. Do you like what you see, Steven Naismith?
Yeah, I think even from his Motherwell days, I think very early on it was clear he had the natural ability, and then the setback he had with the injuries just shows his mental toughness, and then on top of that he's went in, and again you find this with the top quality, especially young Scottish players who start out at a smaller club and move up. When they get into that bigger environment, the quality's better. You get punished more for your mistakes. You flourish, and he's a prime example. Like Ryan Christie's another one. So really like it, but like Hugh says, he is doing all he can. Again, the squad arguably has too many midfielders that the manager's going to need to whittle down anyway. So I think that part of it is what might go against him. But for Celtic, he's through this season, it's been so tough. He has been the biggest shining light. And you looked at Scott Brown and how long he's done it at Celtic. You could see the same for Turnbull in the next 10 years, 15 years. He'll be around the squad and be around Celtic and be a mainstay there.
One thing I don't like, Ruffy, is I don't like comparisons with players. I think it's unfair sometimes when you're looking at comparisons. Oh, he's like this, he's like that. I don't know who in their right mind wanted to compare David Turnbull to Paul McStay, because I think it's an unfair comparison. Different players in many ways. McStay was a phenomenon at 17. David Turnbull just needs to be David Turnbull.
Yeah, I think he's got the same composure. He's got the same style. He's very, very elegant on the ball. He can see a pass. I would put Tommy Burns in that category as well. I'm not saying he's as good as them. All I'm saying is he looks the same, similar player. And it's been a long, long time. I watched him last week there in the game last week. It's a long while since I've seen a Scotland midfield player who gets anywhere around about 18 yards, 20 yards, 22 yards. He's having a pop. He's having a pop all the time. He's not frightened to, pull the trigger when he's at a certain distance, and it proved last night it came off for him. But even in the game last week, he had 4 or 5 for the same area, and I think that's always good when if your strikers aren't getting marked very, very tightly and are not getting a turn at anything. If you've got a midfield player like that who can pull the trigger, so I think they've won a watch with him.
Yeah, as far as Aberdeen are concerned, it's a disappointing night again. A full 90 minutes without a goal being scored, although Darren McManus thinks they should have had a stonewall penalty.
I think the inconsistency is an interpretation of the handball rule, and obviously there's some guidelines there about hands into the body or hands out. Sometimes if you jump, your hand naturally goes up. Is that unnatural? Probably not. But today, I felt it was the exact same incident as Tommy Hogan got given against him at St Mirren. That was Bobby Madden that day. Tonight, Alan Muir, both see it differently. So, I do feel as though that was a penalty kick on the interpretation of the law when I phoned the refereeing department.
That's an interesting one. I watched the game last night, and I don't know, Stephen, it's very difficult. Now, there's 2 elements to this. Do I think it was a penalty last night? No. Do I think that Derek has a case if he's talking about the consistency of where his team were penalised before and, the consistency of the handball last night? He may well have a case rather than just dismissing him out of hand.
Yeah, I think, and it's been a talking point for weeks, the consistency of referees. And now, I get it's the toughest job out there, especially at the moment where they're not getting much help. Some form of video, a VAR system needs to come in at some point. But I think some of the clear-cut decisions they're not getting right. That in itself is an issue. Last night's was not a penalty. I think that's a manager who using a bit of deflection tactics just to get through. And the run they've been on, not scoring goals. But over the course of that game, to be fair, Canberra, I would say, arguably had his best game since coming to Aberdeen, and they did look as if they had a threat. There was a few better opportunities than the St Mirren game last week. So I think overall Aberdeen are small steps in the right direction. But in terms of the penalty, not a penalty, and I do agree that the consistency side of it in the refereeing in Scotland could be slightly better.
And it's going to be a battle now, Ruffy, between Aberdeen and Hibs for that 3rd place.
Yeah, I think the both of them are showing a wee bit of inconsistency, and it'll be whichever one of the 2 of them can string 2 or 3 results together. It would be a wee bit exciting, when they come up to play against each other. That'll give us something to talk about. But I think both of them will think they can get that 3rd place. Derek will obviously believe that once his strikers hit the back of the net, the confidence will grow without the team. But he'll have to do it pretty quickly, because the longer you go with no scoring, it can become a habit, and he'll not want that to happen. But no, I think it's exciting. Obviously with Rangers running away with the league at the top, at least we've got a wee bit of a fight for 3rd and 4th.
Okay, what about that other game, St Mirren against Hamilton? You just can't separate them, Hugh. St Mirren looking to really have a go to get into the top 6, and the Ackies, Brian Rice, as Ruffy and I were discussing, he's got a notebook. He's writing down everybody who's leathered him is going in that notebook. Just in case your name might be in there, Hugh. I'm just asking you.
I've already texted them and said it's MacDonald, not McDonald. So, it's a funny. This kind of thing that about leather. I would never leather Brian Rice for a 100 reasons. One, he's bigger than me, but for 100 reasons. But one that a thoroughly decent guy, excellent coach, good pedigree. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a view that Hamilton, are favourites for relegation. And I always say this, they're always my favourites for relegation because they're the team with the least money, and that money counts in football. But I'm actually, Peter, as well, I'm just hoping that all the games are played behind closed doors this season, because when I predicted on this show that Hamilton would be relegated again, I got a very nice message from Hamilton Academicals event inviting me to the last game of the season to apologise profusely for being wrong, which I accepted on the basis of it was a free entrance to a football game and maybe a pie as well, Peter. So, I mean, I'll eat humble pie and a pie. But, I mean, the idea that saying Hamilton would go down would be in any way a criticism of anything at Hamilton, the players or the manager. It's just a fact that normally budgets should work against teams. But it seems Hamilton, again, Peter, what's that, 4 points out of the last 2 games? Scudded Motherwell. A great point against a good St Mirren team. Ross County now in the bottom berth, who have got Celtic on Sunday. So definitely Hamilton are changing the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other thing about it, Stephen, is he pulled off a massive coup, I think, in getting Bruce Anderson from Aberdeen.
Yeah, he did. I think even with the two teams, that game, you would argue that the biggest improvement has come from these two teams in terms of the shape they play, the way they play, the understanding within their squad. You now watch them on a Saturday and it's not a 10 men behind the ball, we're going to defend for our lives and hopefully get a counter-attack. St Mirren, in arguably the last 6-7 games, or since they beat Rangers in the Cup, have shown that they have a system, the way they want to play, the way they want to build the game. In recent times, more recently, Hamilton have been the same. They've got a lot of energy in their team. There's so much hard work. But their fullbacks, the way they defended Rangers in the game wasn't sitting in. They pushed Rangers back as deep as they could in the game, which is impressive. So I think for the two teams, very impressed with the work that's obviously going on behind closed doors to make them, one, hard to beat, but also carrying a threat.
European football to look forward to, of course, Royal Antwerp against Rangers, and fingers crossed for a good positive result in Scottish football. Again, needs a good coefficient, and Rangers certainly flying the flag over the last few years with Steven Gerrard in charge. You wouldn't bet against them coming away with a positive result. And our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi is out there at Ibrox looking ahead to this match.
Thanks, Peter. Rangers' spectacular season continues this evening with the Europa League last 32 first leg in Antwerp, Belgium. The week has been overshadowed by the fact that 5 players, including Bogani Zungu and Nathan Patterson, attended a COVID rule-breaking party at the weekend, which has led to fines, suspensions from the club and self-isolation. Manager Steven Gerrard said it hasn't affected preparation at all, and that the level in training has been really high and that he senses a big performance and a big result are on the horizon. Rangers are heavy favourites to progress and to win this evening, but Gerrard knows that his side must go up another gear if they want to take something back to Ibrox.
This is a level where you can't afford to have a night off. You can't afford to, put in a performance, for example, like our Hamilton performance. We know the level goes up in this competition, the standard, the technical quality goes up. For sure, so we have to be right at it and find our maximum level of performance to qualify.
Royal Antwerp are having a good season. They're second in the Belgian division, although they haven't won in their last 2 games, and they did change manager in the new year after a poor run of results. They finished second in their Europa League group before Christmas. They beat Tottenham 1-0 at home as well, although they have several key players missing this evening.
They're a squad littered with talented players. They're a big squad, so I'm sure they'll manage without their absentees. I know some of them will return for the second leg, but all our focus is on the first 90 minutes of the tie.
The Gers welcome back Kemal Roof and Alfredo Morelos from domestic suspensions, whilst Ryan Jack, Stephen Davis and Glenn Kamara are likely to start in the middle. Philippe Haaland could partner Connor Goldson at the back, and he set his sights deep into the Europa League.
Hopefully we can get another step this year compared to the last 2 years, and something we talk about.
Gerrard has also made it clear that his aim is to improve on last year's result and reach the quarter-final, but first they must perform in Antwerp this evening.
Yeah, quite a lot of people confident that Rangers can get a result. Stephen McVeigh says 3-0. Fiona Docherty has said 3-0 as well. Seems to be quite a confident prediction on 3-0 for Rangers in this one. It will be tough. Stephen, are you confident this Rangers side can go there and get a win?
Yeah, I think it'll be tougher than a few people expect, but I think overall, over the last 2 years, Rangers have been very good, no matter how domestically they've been doing. The European, the build-up seems to be slightly different. It has a different feel, and that's shown in their performances. So I'm very confident that they'll progress through. But tonight, I think they'll get a win. Also, with Roof and Morelos back, the two of them will be very eager to get back on the pitch. So whether one or both start, I think that is very good for the team as well. That they could be the guys who kind of drive the team on from the kind of lacklustre performances recently.
And just as you're itching to get back in, Hugh, and maybe score some goals for Rangers, I think the last thing maybe Morelos needs, or maybe it was contrived, is his agent coming out and having a real dig at the SFA. I mean, that was some poor timing on that one as well, because he's branded them as having double standards and that he doesn't believe Morelos will get fair treatment from them in the future.
Yeah, it's pretty transparent. I mean, I think agents are there for many reasons, Peter, and one of them is to protect the brand of the player, the player's brand. And I think we're now into late February, heading into March. I think very, very soon, 2 months, there'll be intense speculation about the future of Alfredo Morelos and where he might end up. I think the agent will want to create a narrative that any disciplinary problems are overhyped, a result of bias, a result of prejudice and unfair. So he'll be trying to create that narrative, you know. I don't believe that narrative would survive any valid scrutiny. I think Alfredo Morelos does have disciplinary problems. I think that is, you know, there's evidence, visible evidence there to do that. I don't think they're eradicable, and I don't think in many ways that you know, they should be really. I think, put it this way, I think what he needs to do is tone it down. What he needs, that aggression, he needs that physicality. That's a huge part of his game. It's a huge part of why he'll be important for Rangers tonight and getting the team up the park and keeping the team up the park with that physicality, that ability to that. It's just when he goes over the score. Now there's a danger when you're playing physical to go over the score and pick up bookings and red cards. What he really needs to do is pick out the ones that he doesn't have to do. You know, the ones where he's reacting to players off the ball, the ones where he's really tangling with players unnecessarily. I think he has to address that. But I think, you know, Alfredo Morelos at his best is aggressive, plays really on the edge, and I think that's what the agent wants to get over. This guy, you know, all the red cards have been, you know, the result of an agenda, etc., etc. As part of his job. But I think anybody who would be mentoring Alfredo Morelos at the moment would be saying, listen, try not to commit fouls, try not to get those red cards when the ball's nowhere near, when you don't have to do it.
Ruffy, Ronnie Porter says, please don't ask Ruffy if he's going to give us a prediction on the score, because he reckons you're going to say Royal Antwerp. Now, I don't mind that. I don't mind a bit of banter between Celtic and Rangers fans and all this stuff, but clearly some people get a perception, Ruffy. So give us your prediction. Who's going to win?
Well, I gave a prediction yesterday. I think, as Stephen Gerrard said, I think that Rangers have went off the boil a wee bit compared to a couple of months ago. Yeah, they're still winning games. I think the level of performances, as you've seen against Hamilton and Kilmarnock, haven't been the same. And he's already said that this is a different level that they're playing at. I think Rangers will get beat tonight. I don't think they'll go out the tournament, I think they'll get beat 2-1. They'll get an away goal, and they'll do the business at Ibrox. But I just think this is a tougher game for them.
Yeah, okay, there you are. Who are we to argue with the experience of that man? Hugh McDonald, what's your prediction? I'll go for Rangers to win 1-0. What about yourself, Hugh?
I think it'll be a tough tie in Antwerp tonight. I think I wouldn't be really looking for a Rangers win tonight, actually. You know, I think a draw would be a fantastic result for them. I think they'll get through the tie, Peter. I'd be more confident about predicting that than predicting in the night, because what I think is that Rangers are set up completely for European games. The way Michael Beale in particular, who we know is the guy that works constantly on their shape movement, is geared up to, very quick transitions, working on the break, bit of pace, Morelos back. I just look at one interesting thing I look at, Peter, is like Porto last night achieved what many would have thought was an astounding result in beating Juventus and looking to have paved their way into the latter rounds of the Champions League. That Porto team largely was a Porto team that couldn't beat Rangers last year. So Rangers have got a good hinterland at the moment in European football. They've got a good way of playing. As I say, I'm not ducking the question about tonight. If you really push me, I would say a draw. I think they'll get through the tie.
Yeah, okay. You are now, I think, moving into the realms of suffering from Ruffyitis, Hugh, which is that kind of a 2.5 minutes with your, Stevie used to play for them in the schoolyard. It's the boy that you pick who puts his head down and just keeps running with the ball and doesn't know there are other players around him. Do you remember those players, Stevie? The ones that can't lift their heads.
Very well.
And eventually you get an answer out of him, Daisy. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm going for 1-0 Rangers. Stephen, what are you going for?
I'm the same as you. I think it will be a tough game. The Rangers have been off the boil slightly, but Morelos and Roof back, it being European football, they seem very comfortable in that environment. But I think they'll get a goal.
And Hugh, just on the point there, we're talking about disciplinary. The story came out yesterday. Andrew Phillips is now going to be the new compliance officer. So I don't know anything about Andrew Phillips. He replaces replaces Claire White, but I reckon in the next 3 days I will know his background, the school he went to, all his family connections, whether there's any trace whatsoever of supporting one team or the other. I mean, there's real forensic stuff goes into this.
Absolutely. I mean, as soon as his name was announced, I looked in social media and I wondered, what's this name? It's trending, and being of a certain age, there's a lot of names that trend on Twitter that I don't know about, namely 90% of the pop world and all of the influencer world and every Kardashian that's ever been born. But I said, what's this guy? And then suddenly it clicked, oh, he must be the new compliance officer. And there's pictures of him there'll be pictures of him on social media from age 2 to any stag night that he's ever been on, anybody he's ever met, anything he's ever said. God bless him. I think the whole, on a serious point, I think the whole compliance system is so seriously flawed that the moment that there was a vacancy, Peter, the whole system, from citing, from scrutiny of decisions, from appeal procedures to penalties, Scottish football as a whole should have sat down and said, right, is this what we want to be doing? And if so, how would it be best done? So he's really inheriting. If we go back to the old schoolboy days, another rambling answer from me, we'll go back to the old schoolboy days of the hospital pass on a red blaze pitch, Peter. That's what he's walking into.
If it's any consolation, Hugh, I've just had a message from one of our journalists who said, don't worry, it's already on the forums. They're already checking it out, which just tells you how mad the world is. But nevertheless, listen, we wish him well for the next week or two, just bedding himself in with a tin hat in the bunker. It's as simple as that. Out of all the games, I mean, we mentioned the Rangers and I think the general feeling is we all feel as if they can go through over the two legs. But I'm looking Real Sociedad against Manchester United, Wolfsburg against Tottenham, Prague against Leicester, Benfica against Arsenal. That's just a few of the British clubs all involved in it. Out of them all, is there one clear favourite, Ruffy, in your mind that could actually win this tournament?
I'm still going to hang in with Spurs. I know they're not doing well in the league, but they've got a manager who knows how to win these tournaments and get his team playing in the right way to win them. Going away and getting nothing each and then winning 1-0 at home. He seems to have a knack of doing that, but I would hang on with them. But I think there's going to be a lot of English clubs, in the latter stages of the tournaments. I think they've all progressed and they've got better quality players than some of the foreign teams.
Yeah, I'm quite a few people. Stevie, who are you going for? Did you tip anybody?
Just looking at the teams left in it, I like watching Leicester. I think they play really good football. Great style of playing. I would like them to do well. But I think where they sit in the Premiership, it can be tricky kind of juggling them, whereas the likes of your Spurs and Arsenal, who are potentially out of any real challenge for the title, might see that as a better option to go and win some silverware.
Yeah, in a strange sort of way, Hugh, I agree with Stephen on this. The reason why I think Leicester is because they play that type of football where they're quite happy to soak up pressure and just wait for that one moment where they all break, quick, one-touch passing, bang, take their chance. Vardy's a classic. But the back line for me is all geared up to, we'll just wait.
Slightly old-fashioned defenders.
Yeah, Johnny Evans is the epitome of that attitude. A slightly old-fashioned defender who, by the way, even in his heyday, would be criticised as being, for instance, not good enough for Manchester United. We have to do better than him, and etc. etc. But very much the epitome of what's going on at Leicester. I think, even if you listened to watch Leicester beat Liverpool, Peter, was just sensational on the break. I mean, we all know about Vardy and his pace, but I thought Maddison, again, his touch, his decision making, his technique, and Harvey Barnes just looks, he looks the next big, one of the next big things as well. Well, it was instructive in the interviews after the match that a lot of the Leicester players were saying, we're down to our bare bones here. We can get better. We're waiting for players to get back. So you wonder if the squad will be stretched. But English clubs, quite rightly, should be at the forefront of this discussion, because all the English clubs in the Europa League will actually believe, with reason, that they're Champions League teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not kid ourselves. They've spent a fortune. I mean, they've got the money to back it up, and they've got squads. When I hear any manager talking about they've had major injuries, I automatically think away in Guy's piece, because when you look at some of the great sides of the past, they managed to win it with 12, 14 players of absolute quality, and now you can have two squads in there that are more than capable of winning games. Anyway, apart from anything else, that was the Europa League. Good luck to Rangers in the game against Royal Antwerp. As far as the Champions League, the second night of it, I don't know about you, Ruffy, but I certainly enjoyed it. Seville against Dortmund was where my eye was cast. And the boy, Haaland, my God, he looks up. I mean, you just don't think he's going to miss when he's in that 18-yard box.
You certainly don't want to let him turn on you and run at you, because he's certainly got a bit of pace and he's got a bulk that if you're going to go in there, you're going to come out second best, and he's a finisher, and we saw it, and we're all glad when we never got Norway, because he was the main danger to Scotland. But last night you could see, he's definitely going to be one of the big ones. Some big club's going to just take him. Because his progression is so quick in games like that last night, and if they progress, obviously he'll come up against the teams that will be seriously looking at him, and they'll get an idea of how good he is.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see, by the way, but look at Hugh just itching to talk about Dortmund. So we'll go to Steve. We'll go to Stevie just to blank him out of it. But nevertheless, I think Haaland is good. It's great having a good goal scorer. If anything, there's a couple of components that suggest to me they might not I don't think they're good enough to win it. I think Bayern Munich are certainly a better bet, Stephen. I might be wrong. Hugh might say otherwise. What do you think?
Yeah, I was impressed with PSG. I think even their result, the way they played. Yes, they were up against a Barcelona who are in disarray, but with Pochettino going in there, for instance, when Pochettino took over at Spurs, I don't know if you remember, the first 2-3 months, he laid the marker down. This is how we train. After games, I remember playing them, and say after games, the boys that never played have a full session on the side of the pitch. They travel with all the equipment needed, and as you can imagine, some experienced pros are kind of giving it, "Nah, I'm not doing this." And then there was a couple of bust ups. He just gets rid of them. That you're either with me or you're not. And him going into PSG, doing similar, getting results like he did the other night. Mbappé being unplayable. With Neymar coming back, I think they're a real threat this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to ask you, Hugh, am I being unkind to Dortmund? Do you think they've got enough firepower in Haaland and others in the supporting cast to win the Champions League?
I don't think you're being harsh. I think you're spot on, Peter. I think they've got enough firepower to win or to rack up goals at any level, as was shown last night. This Seville defence had 7 or 8 shutouts consecutively, and they lost 3 goals last night. So up front, firepower is not their problem. Frankly, they've got a goalkeeper. We've got 2 goalkeepers, one who's injured and Hitz who's in goals, who in the old Scottish phrase couldn't keep Waynes out of close. So they're going to be put in a position at the Champions League level that they're always going to have to score at a fair rate to mitigate what's going on defensively. Defensively, they're not a great side either. So yes, they'll score plenty of goals. Haaland is. I mean, I laughed last night when Steve McManus, who pointed out, he said Haaland is going to be a superstar, and I went, no, Haaland is a superstar. Haaland scored 17 Champions League goals already. He's playing in the Bundesliga and the Champions League and scoring more goals than games he plays in. This is not a goal a game man at this level. He scores more than a goal a game. This guy is a superstar. And a wee side issue, Peter, I think the big argument, and it's going to be great in the years to come, if they both stay fit, I think there's going to be a wonderful argument rolling on between Haaland and Mbappé for Ballon d'Ors and for people's favourite player.
Yeah, it's a good point that you make, Hugh, because as I look at the players and thinking to myself, Stephen, who's the next players coming through that a generation can idolise, can be amazed at, can look at the trophies they're going to win. Mbappe certainly has put himself right up there on the stage with the goals that he scored. Haaland's up there. I don't know if there's any other emerging talent that you can think of, but I think they'll go a long way to in any way eclipse what we've witnessed in the last 15 years with that fabulous two of Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah, we just need to be grateful for the two. Unbelievable. And I don't think, I agree, I don't think anybody coming through is going to be in the same category as them. But for me, I like Mbappe just for I see a few different, for me, look, the sharpness of him is like when Henry burst onto the scene. He just glides past players, but then his feet are so quick. His first goal the other night, to react, take 2 quick touches and then finish was sublime. So I think he's one. There'll be a few boys out there. I think also in the next couple of years, Neymar will be seeing that as an accolade. He wants to be the top boy, but further on than that, I think your Haaland and Mbappe are definitely 2 of the best.
Yeah, we're not having Neymar, Ruffy, are we? We're just not having it. He's the least favourite player on this programme, I have to say. Ruffy, I'm not having it. Are you?
No, there's Des McEwen that put me off him. Des absolutely slaughtered him, so that's it. For me, there's no way back for him.
Yeah, in a way, I think if anything, Neymar suffers from a wee bit of what Ronaldo suffered from early on. Too much of the posturing and not enough of concentrating on what he really was good at.
But his
Ronaldo's completely,
skill,
for me,
there's not many players with the skill he has.
Oh, you're
No.
right. You're 100% right. But he's one of those guys, if I was playing
There is
against
too
him, I'd
much.
never get tired of punching him. And then I'd take
It
a
was
red
like
card for him.
Ralston at Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those moments, but he's done that all over Europe. Anyway, apart from anything else, one other little thing I've got to get your thoughts on. Man City, outrageous, Stephen. I mean, they just dispatched Everton out the road as if it was a fly on their windshield.
They did the quality of their goals as well. They're not grinding results out. They're just blowing teams away. I actually thought this season, or I hoped this season, that it would be really tight and we're getting into the final weeks and there's 3 or 4 teams that could win it. But I think in this last month, City have just kind of put their foot in the accelerator and, like I said, blown teams away. The players have stepped up. De Bruyne's been out, Aguero's not played, but Gundogan's come in, and Foden for me as well. He's a guy who just, the way he manipulates the ball is sensational. And they've arguably done this without a striker. That's the biggest thing for me. I think they need to sign a striker, but overall, they've mainly done this the main striker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point you make, and Guardiola quite happy the way they're playing.
A lot of wins in a row, and still we have the desire, or I see the team playing football, like don't play to keep what we have. We are playing to get more, and get more today was 3 points and a good performance again.
Yeah, absolutely. Man City flying no, and I think we'll be betting against them winning the English Premier League. As far as the weekend's concerned, of course, Stephen, you guys are in action. Amazingly, Ruffy, I didn't realise this, but somebody's pointed out to me, I think it was maybe Darren Jackson pointed out, as they were looking at Inverness, Cali Thistle, the second bottom of the table. I was actually thinking Cali would be up there pushing, but if they win their games in hand, Ruffy, they'll be back in there they'll be back in there battling away. It's a kind of a false position at the moment Robbo finds his team in.
Yeah, but I think if you ask anybody, you'd rather have points in the bag than having the pressure of getting into games and having to win them. I do think they're better than the teams that are down there. I do think eventually they won't be in any trouble. But last night's result was just a perfect example of games that they should win, and the sooner they get back into winning ways, the better, because once you're down there, sometimes some players can't handle it at all. So every game becomes a really, really big one. So, no, I think he'll be okay eventually, but Robbo's target would have been in that top 4, and they're nowhere near that just now.
Yeah, absolutely, and you boys are still out there in front. Is it clicking at the moment? Is there a wee bit of, is the engine not going at full throttle at the moment, Stephen?
There's been a few results and performances that they've not been what the manager wants in terms of the levels, what we have shown in games. I think the Ayr game was looking on the kind of defensive side, and that you come away saying it was a good result, good win. But then Queen of the South, we probably should have done better. But we've got Morton at home this weekend, so we'll be hoping for a good performance and a good result. So that is. But again, the squad's becoming more competitive. The boys that have come in the January are getting a bit fitter as well. So that's the one thing that's happened over the January window. There's more competition for places.
Yeah, and how's Gary settling in?
Good. Gaz as normal's quiet as it is. So I think a lot of people will be saying, "Oh, he's dead quiet," but that is just Gaz. He's one that's probably benefiting as the weeks go on, just with not have been played since the kind of middle of December before he signed. So I think he's one that he's still getting used to how some players play and stuff like that. But I'm very confident over the time Gaz will be a great signing for Hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. I think he's going to be absolutely top drawer for you. Although I was just wondering, you've hit the bench a couple of times in the last few weeks. You're 100%, or is the manager changing things around?
The manager's changed it. I think a couple of times as well when we go and play on AstroTurf. the manager tends to kind of leave me out, which I understand. It's different playing on it, and at my age and the injuries I've had, it definitely plays its part. So that's been part of the issue. But I'll be as like the Queen of the South game when I come on. I've got to just try and do what I can. And to be honest, we've got quite a young squad with a lot of the boys that are in the team make decisions that I've made when I was younger. And as much as I can guide these guys, that's as big a part as playing week in, week out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the invaluable part of it all, Hugh, to have experienced pros that can just pass on the messages, try and make you aware of the pitfalls in life. The reason I mention that is because obviously we've got a 1-to-1 at the moment that I did with Kevin Twaddle at the start of the week.
Yeah.
And Twads was a great big lad, great winger. I thought he could have gone higher, but he just, there's just things that caught up with him, that footballers, when they don't know what to do with their time, he suffers from gambling addiction. And then eventually when I did the 1-to-1 with him, Hugh, you find that through lockdown, like many people, not just sports people, but many people, they just go into other dark areas where, it's difficult. They just need motivation. They need a cry for help sometimes about difficulties that they're going through.
Absolutely. And it's... I read Kevin's book, published many years ago, and saw so much in it, and appreciated so much of that that turmoil of addiction, and that part of the personality that is predisposed perhaps to addiction, and predisposed to having perhaps a greater emphasis on the darker side. And lockdown has been very, very difficult for people generally, Peter, but it's been almost unendurable for some people as well. And the most important the thing they can have is, whether it be in a football dressing room or whether it can be in some way in social media privately, where a direct message or WhatsApp groups or something like that, is have people to talk to in the midst of it, and know that, the great saying with all these things, the one I always held close to me was, whenever, there's anything going tough in my life, is this too shall pass, this too shall go. What you're maybe feeling today and what you're undergoing today may not be what you're undergoing tomorrow. It's life can be transient, and your moods and emotions can change. But yes, it's been. I think that's one of the big stories of lockdown, isn't it? How some people have found it so unendurable.
Yeah, and you, better than anyone, Hugh, are well placed to comment on that with those same trials and tribulations. It's a good listen if you get a chance in the podcast, Kevin Twaddle. And of course, he's found a bit of salvation in going out running. So I do that regularly anyway, Stephen, but I'm going to hit that Portobello Road with him and hope somehow I can keep up with him and get to the end of it without getting pelters. So I might need to... And Portobello, I might need to borrow one of your old Hibs tops, Ruffy. Do you know the funny thing? Do you know the funny thing about it, Ruffy? Everybody goes through dark times, and I'm not making light of this, because the great thing about you is you've also, everybody thinks it's a glamorous football life. You've been to 3 World Cups. You've also had tough times. But when I asked your wife, when he went through his tough times, God, was he down in the dumps? And she says, no, he was still Alan Rough, still the great, likeable, nothing's a problem. you were just able to get on with life, no matter what was flying at you. It's one of the greatest qualities you have, Ruffy, since the day and hour I met you. The place here could be on fire, but you're a calming influence and not flustered by it.
I'd have been out first before everybody else. I wouldn't have been hanging about.
Peter, I'll say in my life, I've watched Ruffy line up a wall for Zico. I've watched him play a Celtic team at Hampden. I've watched him in great nervous tension situations, and the only time I saw him petrified, and I have never seen somebody as frightened as this, is the day that you phoned in and said, Ruffy, I'm going to be late. You're going to have to host the show.
Stephen, I can tell you, it was the funniest moment I have ever witnessed. As I was caught in a traffic jam, Stephen, all you could hear was Ruffy going, "Hello, everyone."
Constantly touching the mic.
That's your man. Absolutely. So, if it all goes pear-shaped, thankfully, Stephen and Hugh are here for us. Anyway, apart from anything else, yeah, good crack. Neil Gray mentioned something too, which I think is worthy of a comment just before we go. Neil says, not Scottish football, but he says, what's everyone's thoughts on Sunderland have been taken over with their new chairman, Kirill Louis-Dreyfus, who's only 23 years of age. Now, I don't know about Hugh, but at 23 years of age, I didn't have too many thoughts in my mind, you know. I mean, I just wanted to go to a nightclub and party hard for as long as I possibly could and play football with my mates. Running Sunderland at 23.
Well, listen, he's 23 now. See, after a week of running Sunderland, he could queue up beside me at the post office for his pension and get away with it. He wouldn't need any ID. That's the most incredible club. There's something about it. See that club, Peter, and I can see why the guy's taken over. Because see, when I went down to watch, I think about nearly 2 years ago, went down to watch a game there. And it's incredible. It's a Premier League club. It's this fantastic stadium, 50,000 fans. Of course you would buy it. You just say, why wouldn't I buy this team? It's in League One and it's a Premier League club. But it seems to have the ability to break everybody who either manages it or owns it. If you look at the recent managers as well, you know, Davy Moyes, who's now, you know, they're talking about Champions League football for West Ham. You know, and others, Jack Ross is doing well up here. You can go through the list of recent Sunderland managers, and it just seems a club that just seems nobody can get a grip of. Yeah, absolutely. It's a crazy poison chalice. Anyway, good luck to him. He's 23. Incredible. Good to hear from Steven Naismith. Good luck at the weekend, Stevie, in your game. Good to see the Jambos doing well. And as ever, Stephen with us every Thursday. Listen to the podcast if you can, if you get a chance. Enjoy your football tonight. Good luck to Rangers in their match in the Europa League. Tomorrow on the programme, Tam is on duty somewhere else. So we're going to be joined by a St Johnstone legend. Chris Miller will be with us alongside Ruffy, myself and Charlie Adam, looking ahead to the weekend's football. So from Ruffy, from Stevie Naismith, from Hugh McDonald and myself, thank you very much for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.